Thanks for joining me today. This is Danny, and welcome back to my FTB Unstable 1.8 series. Today we are going to be playing a little bit more with Psi. As you can see, I have upgraded my CAD to an ebony CAD. This allows for the greatest bandwidth of spells, so we can make some really complicated spells with this thing now. And I have upgraded my mod pack to the latest version, which at the time of this recording is 3.0.34, which also has an upgraded version of Psi since the last time that I played. So we actually have a few more tutorials now with some more spell pieces that we're going to take a look at today real briefly. And then we also have armor. We have Exosuit, Psi metal exosuits, which allow us to have spells cast based on events, like for instance damage for the chest plate, and ticks for the leggings, and jumping for the boots. So we're gonna play around with that a little bit today, and that should be really fun. I'm excited about that. But before we do that, I just want to show you a few things that I've done that you might find a little bit interesting. First of all, oh by the way, to do the ebony and ivory, I did the two top tier CAD assemblies are ebony and ivory, and to make those you need the Psi metal ingot with some ebony substance, and the other one is ivory substance. The ebony is just coal shot with the ebony ivory infusion spell. Ivory is nether quartz shot with the infusion spell, and it has to be done in the end. You cannot do it in the overworld or anywhere. First, let's check out my flight spell. Hooray, check this out, we're flying! The only problem, it is a temporary flight spell because it does actually, it does actually consume Psi energy faster than it replenishes. But I mean, it's a great way to get from one place to another. If it's not very far, you just have to keep an eye on your Psi energy, because if you start to run out of Psi energy, it'll start taking your health points like that. Whoa. And of course, if you're really high up and you don't have any other means of flight or fall damage protection, that could kill you as well. So it's kind of a dangerous 3x3 spell based on one that I found on Reddit. And I'll post a link to the original Reddit forum where I found this, or the thread or whatever. But it basically does a 3x3 block. And what's cool about it is that it also does it in the plane that you're looking at. So, just like a hammer, except it's better than a hammer in that it's faster. 2, there's no durability issues because its durability is replenished by Psi energy. 3, it will break every block, whether it's dirt or whatever, or gravel or whatever. I don't want to knock my torch down. There we go. See? So we don't have to have a separate excavator or a separate hammer and all that stuff. We don't have to repair our tools all the time because our Psi energy will repair it for us. But I've also got something else that I think is even better. It was a little bit more complicated to make than that one, and that one actually was pretty complicated. And I'll explain it in a minute. But I have a similar spell, but with the Psi gun instead of having to use the pick. What the heck is that noise? Instead of having to use the pick, we can just go like this. And it's an instantaneous break. And it'll break all kinds of blocks. It doesn't matter what they are. So, I mean, you can do some serious freaking mining with this. Here, let's go all the way down. You can see I've been kind of playing with this a little bit already. But if we go down to like level 9, which is where we would want to get like diamonds and stuff like that, we can just... just grab everything, man. Nice. Now we just need to make a spell that picks up the items so that we can just stand in one place. And we basically have a handheld quarry here. And, I mean, we could probably do more than 3x3, but it would get more complicated. It's not all that easy to scale it. But basically what this spell is doing is, now I'm going to get into a little bit of a technical explanation because there's some vector math involved here. but it's not terribly complicated. So we're looking at this middle block here, and we want to break all the blocks around it, and we don't know what plane we're looking at, so we can't just say, hey, break all the blocks in the, going up in the y-axis like some of the other simpler spells that we did, because we might be looking down, we might be looking up, and we wanted to break the 3x3 no matter what direction we're looking in. So we can't hard code the direction vector. We have to calculate it. So we're looking at this block, and we're getting a vector that represents, we're getting an axial vector that represents the face of this block, which would essentially be a vector pointing in that direction. We're looking at this block, and the axial vector representing the face of the block that we're looking in is pointing that way. So we can think of this as a vector, and this is like the point of the vector, the direction it's facing in. We need to get a vector that is perpendicular to that vector in an axial vector that's perpendicular to that vector. There are 4 different vectors perpendicular to this one, 4 different axial vectors that are perpendicular to this one, and one would be facing that way, one would be facing that way, one would be facing that way, and one would be facing this way. It really doesn't matter which one we get. Any one of those vectors would suit us, one pointing in this direction, down, up, or to the left. And of course, if we were looking at that block down there, that would look like this. So the same concept. So no matter which block face we're looking at, we want one of the perpendicular vectors. And then, so let's say we end up with this one. So we now have two perpendicular vectors, one representing the block face we're looking at, and then one that's perpendicular to that. So that'll give us this block and this block in the case that we're, well, wait. So if we're looking at this block, it'll give us that one, and it'll give us this one. So from here now, we want to be able to break, or we can, from here, we want to be able to break this block and this block, and do a block sequence going in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So to do that, we're going to need, to get this block and this block, we're going to need 2 vectors that are perpendicular to both of these vectors. And there's an easy way to do that. That's what you call a cross product. So a cross product of 2 vectors gives you a vector that is perpendicular to both of those vectors. And there are 2 possible axial vectors that are perpendicular to these 2 vectors. One of them would be going down that way, and one of them would be going up that way. And then we're going to take the reverse, this vector basically negated, for the break block sequence in order to break blocks in this direction, to get these blocks and these blocks. Well, and these blocks. So then we end up breaking these 9 blocks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So first we'll start with the easy one that we played with today, and that's the flight one. This is just, it's using the add motion trick, which is pretty simple. All we're doing is it takes a target, and the target is us, the caster. The direction is the entity look vector. So the direction that we're looking summed with a vector construct of 0, 1, 0. So that's basically x, 0, y, 1, and z, 0. So that's the upward direction. So we're taking the direction that we're looking in, and we're adding 1 to y. So if we're looking in the south direction, it's going to move us 1 block south and 1 block up. We're kind of at a diagonal, I suppose. So it's constantly moving us up, and the speed is 2. It has to be at least 2, otherwise it's not strong enough to keep you off the ground. And that's it. That's all there is to it. So it just moves you in the direction you're looking, plus 1 in the y direction. So thanks to NateDebug1997, who posted this on Reddit. This is, I think I made a few very tiny modifications to this. This is the 3x3 that works with the tool. So this is the one that we use with our pick, our Psi Pickaxe. And it's basically doing three, like we said, it's doing 3 break block sequences that are breaking 3 blocks. So we start out with the block broken side. So when we use the tool and we break a block, the block broken side gives us the side of the block that we were hitting when we broke the block. Remember, I said that we need a perpendicular vector to the side of the block that we broke so that we can get one of the other blocks next to the block that we broke on the plane, on the same plane that we were hitting the block on. We're using the vector construct to construct a vector that has the x, y, z values shifted. We're pulling the y, x, and z from the selector block broken. We actually have 2 of those. X, y, or the y, x, and z, and we're placing them in the x, y, and z. So we're basically just shifting them, and that'll give us a perpendicular vector to this one. And then, like I said, we're then taking the cross product of these 2 vectors, of the vector of the side of the block that we broke and the vector that we just found that's perpendicular to it, which will give us another vector that's perpendicular to both of them, like I had mentioned. So this will give us either the one above it or the one below it, or if we had this one to the left or to the right. So then our first break block sequence is taking the position of the block that we broke. It's vector subtracting that from the first perpendicular one that we got by shifting the x, y, and z values, and it's summing them with the cross product. That would actually end up giving us a block that's diagonal from the one that we hit. And then the direction, well, the target, is going to be that perpendicular vector that we got in the beginning. So that'll give us our first 3 blocks. And then the second break block sequence is taking the same position that this one is, and it's just subtracting from it the cross product. So remember, the cross product gave us the vector that's perpendicular to both. So that's basically going to bring us down to the next row of blocks. And then we're going to break 3 blocks in the same direction as this one. And then the last one is basically doing the same thing again. It is, again, subtracting from that vector, that cross product, to get us the last row of 3 blocks that we need to break, and the target is the same. I hope that makes sense. I mean, you don't have to fully understand it to use it, but if you do want to tweak it or do some interesting things like it, you can take that and play around with it. So I took this one and I modified it to work with the CAD. It's very similar, but it's a little bit more complicated and actually takes up the whole grid, so you have to have the ivory. This is essentially doing the exact same thing that the other one is doing. Like this corner of the spell is exactly the same, but the difference is, instead of using the break block face and the broken block position, it's using the vector raycast, which we've played with a lot already. This gives us the block that we're looking at when we give it the entity, our position, and our look vector. And instead of using the broken block side, we're using the vector axis raycast, which is the same idea. It's our position and our look vector, but this just gives us the side of the block, an axial vector of the side of the block that we're looking at. Check it out, man. It's the Exosuit. It's actually pretty cool looking. I've actually got it enchanted all the way to protection 4, just because I can do that. And each protection suit has some kind of trigger that allows you to run a spell at some particular point, at some triggered point, which is really nice. So the helmet, well, we'll do the helmet last because that's the more complicated one. The boots will run a spell when you select jump, or when you jump. The leggings will run a spell every tick. The chest plate will run a spell when you get attacked. And we have a couple of spell pieces that allow us to target the attacker, and also we can find out how much damage we took. So in the boots, I put a jump boost. I basically have a spell that propels me into the air. So every time I jump, I get this crazy jump boost. That's actually only 3. I could do a much bigger jump boost than that. Oh, and I have some debug information on the left. You can ignore that. Chest plate. We have to wait for an attacker to come and attack us so that we can demonstrate that. But essentially all I have it doing is when somebody attacks me, they get wither. Oh no, they get wither and they get weakness for 3 seconds each. So then we also have to make this Exosuit controller, which when we're holding it and we press C, we get all of our armor, and we right and left click to toggle through the armor. So I want to go to my chest plate and select attacker wither and weak. So now if we look at our armor and shift click over it, it says attacker wither weak. So now if we go down here and he attacks us, he gets wither. He also is weakened, which means his hits aren't going to hurt as much. But now for the chest plate, or for the leggings, the every tick one, I've got something that I found on Reddit. It's kind of interesting. It's not very practical, but it's kind of fun. And that is levitate enemies. Wait, did I select it? I didn't. Sometimes it doesn't always seem to select. There we go. So it's going to, basically it's just going to put the enemies where I look. I don't know why it's not doing it to this guy. Why is it not working? Oh, because I've run out of Psi energy. Okay, so it's not a very sustainable spell if you have other spells going on at the same time. But, okay, wait, let me turn that off. If you shift right click, it's going to disable all of your spells in your armor. So if you get into a situation where your spells are like killing you, you can quickly shut them off. Conjure block. Check that out. It's conjuring these translucent blocks in the direction that I'm looking at my feet. They're temporary. You can see that they're kind of fading over there. So here's the spell. So it's just trick conjure block. That's something that we just got in level 20 block conjuration. We get this conjure block, which takes a position, of course. That would be the position vector where you want to place the block, and then the time. So it's time in ticks. 200 ticks would be 10 seconds. So I'm conjuring a block that will disappear after 10 seconds. And the position of the block is a vector sum of my position plus we're adding my axial look. So the direction I'm looking in, we're going to add 1 to the entity position in that direction. And then we're going to subtract 2 from y, because the entity position is giving us the position of our head. So we don't want to place a block at our head, we want to place a block at our feet, or under our feet, so that would be 2 blocks down. And that's it. That's all there is to realize that I hadn't talked about the helmet. So the helmet, when you first make the helmet, if we shift over it, we can say that, or we can see these other ones have events. So like the boots have the jump event, that's when it runs your spell. And our exo helmet has no event handler. It never runs. It never runs a spell unless we add one of these sensors. We have a light sensor, which will run a spell when the light level changes. We have a water sensor, a heat sensor, and a stress sensor, which I believe runs when your health is declined to a certain point. The heat sensor would be like if you find yourself in lava or something. The water sensor obviously detects when your head is underwater. So I put a spell in our lava. I put a spell in our helm, in my helm. Water breathe, which does exactly what you would expect. So the spell actually will run once when the condition changes. So at the point that my head is underwater, the spell is going to run. It would be kind of cool if it would just if it would run like repeatedly while you were underwater. But you can see we're underwater, we have water breathing. I gave myself water breathing for 10 seconds. So now we've lost our water breathing. If we go above the surface again and then back down, we get our water breathing again. Hooray! Just smelted an item. It's a very simple spell, pretty similar to the blow up enemy spell that I did last time, where it just it's getting a selector is grabbing a list of nearby smeltable items, so that's just items loose in the world that can be smelted, and then it's getting the closest one out of that list, and it's doing the trick smelt item. So that's just getting us through the smeltery level. We can also smelt a block. There we go. This is the smelt block spell, and it'll smelt any block that can be smelted into another block. It's grabbing the vector raycast of the caster's look vector and position. So it's just smelting the block we're looking at. Oh. Okay, I've made one more change to my 3x3 spell that I think is going to make it way more useful. So like we can break blocks from really far away, but we still have to run after them. I mean, we still have to run over there to pick up the stuff, right? Not anymore. Check that out, man. Oh, I love that. Oh, man. That is so awesome. The only thing is, it does use a little bit more Psi energy. Hey, what are you guys doing over here? It does use a little more Psi energy, so I can't do as much. But I think that's a decent trade-off, because, man, I mean, I can just stand in one place. It's like a freaking quarry, a handheld quarry. Nice. I'd like to try to figure out a way to make it a little bit less, or a little bit more efficient, maybe, but I don't know. It's pretty cool. I mean, just for like walking around and mining and stuff, and then if I see something I want and it's kind of far away, hey, what are you doing with my iron, man? Anyway, so I see something I want, it's kind of far away. I'm like, oh, let's grab that coal. Oh, it didn't work. What? There we go. And every time you run it, basically what it's doing is it's grabbing all the entities within all of the item entities within a 32 block radius and pulling them toward you. So even if it misses something the first time, the second time you hit something, it's just going to pull everything from all around. I don't know. It's not perfect, though. It does miss some things sometimes. And it only will bring them a certain distance. So you can't, like, even though we can break blocks way over there, they don't always, well, actually these are doing pretty good, but ooh, diamonds. They don't always make it all the way to us. I'm gonna grab these with Silk Touch so I can double them. Oh, how did that end up out there? See, it's not perfect. But then I also made a magnet spell, just a plain old magnet spell, so that, if we do have a bunch left behind or whatever, we can always just go right to magnet, and this will just pull everything in from, I think I actually have that one set to 100 blocks away. Oh, no. Actually, this one is special. Weird. This one will actually pull blocks from where you're looking. So here's the spell. Now this is the 3x3 spell that we did earlier. I actually managed to compact the 3x3 spell into an 8x8 area because I had to in order to make room for this. The way the interpreter works is the first thing it does is it looks for the tricks, and it will run the tricks from top down, left to right. So basically the way you would read. So the first trick is this trick break block sequence. It's actually going to do this one first, and it's going to grab all the information and load all of the selectors and whatever else that it needs in order to run this particular trick. And then it'll go to the next trick, and then the next trick, and then it's going to go down here. So I had to, it would have been more compact if I actually put this up here, but then it would have run the magnet thing first, and then it would have broke the blocks, which would not be very helpful. We had to put the magnet thing down on the bottom, and this is all it is. It's just, we're using the max exodus trick, which takes a list of entities, and items in the world are entities. Actually, let's shift over this. It takes an entity list, it takes a position vector, and it takes a number, which is the speed. And this is the highest that we can go, actually. If we go to 4, then our spell is too expensive. And the higher the speed, the faster it will pull the items, the further they'll travel. So that's kind of our limit. Anything more than 16 blocks away, it seems like it doesn't get to us. The position is our position. So any items within 32 blocks of us are going to be pulled toward us. So I am pretty happy with my Psi arsenal and tool set at this moment. So I think that's going to be enough for today. I am going to do a little bit of organizing of, well, my inventory for one thing, and my spells, because I've got like a lot of spells that I'll probably never use again. Some that I just used to get through the tutorial, and some just to kind of check stuff out and have some fun. And actually, I haven't added anything to my sword yet. I think I might add Wither to that, and maybe some other nasty effects. In the next episode, we're going to probably play with a mod that I have not played with yet. There are quite a few. There are actually, there's a few mods in this mod pack that we still haven't played with yet. One of them, of course, is Blood Magic, which I have never played with before. So if I do play with Blood Magic in this mod, it might be a little derpy, because I'm not really going to know what I'm doing right away, which I guess that might be okay. And of course, usually I don't, I edit my videos, so it's not like you're going to have to watch me derp around and be like, what do I do now? How come this isn't working? You don't have to watch that kind of stuff. But there's also, of course, there's Intangibles, which is a brand new mod that I've been thinking about playing with. And then we also have Hydraulicraft and Pneumaticraft, which are both tech mods that work with pressure, with air pressure. So those could be kind of interesting. I did work with Pneumaticraft in my Forgecraft series, and that was kind of fun. I did find it difficult to work with sometimes, though, and some of the stuff just didn't always work the way I expected it to, but otherwise it was pretty fun. It's got a lot of really, really cool tools. Hydraulicraft I've never played with before, so that might be worth looking into. So if you have any preferences, feel free to let me know in the comments below. If you have any questions about Psi or anything else, let me know. Or if you just want to say hello. And of course, if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to click the like button and join me next time. Thanks for watching.